Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
This is Ryan Pennington from Jump Seat Radio, and you are listening to Dr. Richard Gasaway on SA Matters Radio. The SA Matters mission is simple. They want to help us see the bad things coming and time to avoid bad outcomes.
Hello, and welcome to episode 42 of the Situational Awareness Matters radio show. I'm your host, Rich Gasaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence environments. The SA Matters mission is simple: to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm really excited today because I have with me as a guest Battalion Chief Stephen Page from the Raleigh, North Carolina Fire Department, sharing his close call survival story. I had the honor of being in Raleigh in December and delivering a situational awareness and decision-making program for the battalion chiefs. And it was from the lessons of that class that Chief Page was inspired to come onto the show and share his close call event. So stick around and we'll get to that interview in just a few minutes. I'm coming to you today from Hayward, Wisconsin, where tomorrow I will be conducting a one-day joint program with my son, Cameron, on recruiting and retaining the Generation Y worker. That's his part of the program. Since he is Generation Y, he provides a very special view of the world, his world, and the world that is your next generation worker. Then in the afternoon, I'll be presenting on recruitment and retention best practices, teaching and sharing with leaders how to recruit and retain the Generation Y worker. I want to start off by offering my sincere appreciation to Midwest Fire for signing on to be the sponsor of the SA Matters radio show for the entire year of 2015. This is a really big deal because it allows me to have some support to ensure that the weekly episodes continue to come to you on time and for free. Not only is Midwest Fire a sponsor of the radio show, but they've also agreed to sign on to provide sponsorship for 3 full-day live tour events, with the first one coming up in Loveland, Colorado in March. This speaks volumes for their commitment not only to building great fire trucks, but also for their passion for firefighter safety. If you're thinking about buying a new engine, a mini pumper, or a pumper tanker, check them out. Seriously, check them out. MidwestFire.com. MidwestFire.com. In case you missed the big announcement, the new website has launched. I've addressed most of the little bugs in the launch, so there's a couple more things that I'm working on, but it's the site's up and running, and I think it's looking pretty good. I'd welcome your feedback on it. You can just click on the Contact Us link on the website and give me your feedback, things that you'd like to see added or whatever. When you visit it, you'll see a blog roll down the left side, and the podcast episodes are listed in the middle. You'll see easier access to the content in the store, some mini courses that are going to be coming soon. What I have up there now is just kind of a sneak preview of what you'll see as offerings here in the future. Information on live events, a few testimonials, and a blue box that you can click on the right side to see the upcoming events, a red box on the right side that you can click on for your membership. For anyone who is a member, I'm working on some free videos that I'll be sending out in celebration of the 3-year anniversary of SA Matters. These videos are going to be kind of like mini courses that offer some focus on some mistakes that we're making in training and how we might be able to fix those mistakes so that firefighters will have stronger situational awareness and help them make better decisions under stress, essentially help them become thinking firefighters. Make sure that support at richgasaway.com is on your email safe sender list, otherwise the emails and the video link might go to your junk mail folder, and these are videos that you're probably going to want to watch and share. And I'm working on them. They'll be coming out soon. I know I've been saying that for a while, but there's a lot of A lot of things on the plate right now, and they're coming. So just stick with me. Okay, so let's get plugged in now with our interview with then Captain, now Battalion Chief, Stephen Page of the Raleigh Fire Department.
It was December 26th of 2012. It was the day right after Christmas. And we had several calls that morning. We had already had what came in as a small structure fire. It turned out to be a water heater in the basement of a high rise, and that wasn't anything big, but it had been a busy morning. And we got back to the station, and it was probably 35 degrees. It was a real cold rain, but it was a constant rain. It never stopped. And it's almost like a Seattle rain. And
sorry to all you folks from Seattle listening.
And we got back to the station. We were getting our gear back together. Everything was still wet, but we received a call to the Hibernian pub off of Glenwood Avenue. Came in as a structure fire. Pulled the rip and run, got on the rig, and we're pulling out the door. And as we turn, we go around behind the station, actually, because it's a downtown. Station 1 is downtown Central City in Raleigh. We made the block. We started back up the hill, and I was looking, and it's just a habit you have after you ride on that rig for so long. You start looking the skyline, looking for the smoke, and I kept looking to see if I saw anything, and I kept thinking to myself, this ain't gonna be too much because I don't see any smoke. But I didn't take into effect that cold rain. And when we topped the hill and started down Glenwood, I could see a light haze of smoke coming up the street. So I thought, well, this might be something to it now. As we passed the front, the alpha side of the structure, it was a single story. It was called the Hibernian Pub. It was a single-story pub. They had a bar. They served lunch, supper, meals, and stuff in there. And I remember seeing the cook. He was he was smoking a cigarette propped up on the front of the building right beside the front door. But my driver pulls the ladder up to the intersection. He spotted the ladder perfectly on the first shot, and as we stopped in the intersection, I got out of the rig, got my tools. As I walked around the front bumper, I looked, and I could just see this heavy black pushing smoke coming out of the rear alley on the Division C side, coming out off the D corner. And I remember thinking, that's a working fire. And I could hear the cook and the engine officer talking at the front, and he told the engine officer, he said, the fire's out. But, I'm sitting there and I'm seeing this black smoke pushing out the alley. I said, no, that fire's not out. But at the same time, I had a thought, and it just hit me. I said, this is the type of fire that usually kills firefighters. You're going to have to keep your A game on. So I got my irons positioned, the firefighter that was with me. I said, okay, let's go check this alley and see what's going on in the rear. So we started doing the 360 around the building. We came up to the alley, and I looked down the alley, and we couldn't even get down the alley without putting the SCBA mask on. So we masked up, we got to the back door, and as we get to the back door, I pulled the thermal up and looked, and it was just from ceiling to floor. It was high heat in that rear door. I said, we can't make entry here. We're going back to the front. So we went back to the front. The engine officer, he had his firefighter pulling a 2-inch attack line. He's pulling the attack line. I told him, I said, we got heavy fire in the rear. I said, I can't tell if it's coming out of the kitchen or not, but I know it's in the rear of the structure. So as soon as they got the line stretched, we all went together and made entry into the structure.
Okay, hold on a second.
Okay.
This is a single-story building.
Single-story building.
Is it detached, or does it have buildings on each side of it?
It has buildings on each side of it. Matter of fact, the alley on the rear was probably only 15 feet wide at the most. It may have been even more narrower than that.
Mm-hmm. And then the building itself, give me an idea of the footprint size. Not of all the adjacent buildings, but just the pub.
The pub itself was, I'd say, 40 by maybe, I'd say 80 feet across the front, 80, maybe 100 feet across the front, and 40 feet deep.
Okay.
That's from the sidewalk to the rear, and they had probably 10 feet of sidewalk space where they had seating out on the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Single story. It did have there was a building in the Bravo division that was probably 20 feet off, and then there was a building in the Charlie division. Like I said, it was real close to the structure.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the Delta division, it was a street. So it was street access on Alpha and David, or Delta.
Okay. All right. So you come back around to the front.
We came back around to the front. We got with the officers. I told them they had a fire in the structure. We needed to go ahead and make entry. And that's one of those things I question now, because with the time that I spent in training, the years that I've done live fire training exercises, I've seen the heavy smokes, I've seen the fire behaviors, and when you have that type of fire behavior and that type of structure, the first thing I'm thinking is, okay, we got to get some ventilation going, we got to have some visibility, we got to let the heat out. My driver and my vent position, they had already established the ladder to the roof. They were going up to get some vertical ventilation in place. So I figured, okay, we're going to get in with the line. They're going to get the hole cut. We're going to knock this fire down. So we made entry. We it couldn't have been 5 or 10 feet inside the front door, and visibility went to zero. I mean, it was just black smoke to the floor. I had a hand light on my hip. I had the 90-degree light on my coat, and I had a light on my helmet. All three lights on. I could not see a beam off of none of those lights.
Okay, now let me ask you something. When you went in, 10 feet in, did you encounter that type of smoke, or did the conditions change and turn to that type of smoke? Am I being clear with my question?
Yes, the conditions had already gotten to that point. We encountered that smoke on entry.
Okay, so as soon as you made entry, you had that heavy, thick black, down to the floor, zero visibility smoke right from the entry?
Right from the entry.
Okay. Go ahead.
And that's one of those things, a lot of firefighters don't get to see that. But that's something that should have clued me that we need to do something different. We had reports that everybody was out of the building. The cook was outside. The halon system had dumped. So, if that didn't get the fire in check, there was something we should have done differently, and it should have clued into my thought process, but it didn't. And I think that's just from the years and years of getting the aggressiveness and let's go get it attitude. I mean, it's still there.
Mm-hmm. So would it be fair to say, and I want to unpackage your mindset a little bit, because I want the listener to benefit from knowing what maybe you were thinking. So when you made the entry and you saw that heavy, thick smoke all the way down the floor, zero visibility, you said to yourself, this isn't right, or this isn't good, right?
Well, I knew that we were in a tough situation, but I had that feeling that our tactics, getting the ventilation in place, getting the hose line in place, and everything was going to improve rather quickly, because the main body of the fire was contained in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the ceiling inside the structure itself was a tin ceiling. I don't know if you've, I'm sure you have, but
Yep.
they take the sheets of tin and they stamp the design in it and they put it up. So
Yep, like an Irish pub.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's exactly what it was, an Irish pub. So we go in, and my firefighter, as we're making entry, we made it inside maybe 20 feet.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry, I'm going to ask so many questions. How many people are inside with you?
At this time, it's myself, my irons position, which was a firefighter. It was the officer off the engine in his irons position on a hose line. So we had one hose line and 4 people going in at this point.
And what was the mission that the 4 of you were trying to accomplish at that moment inside?
Get in, locate the fire, and make a knockdown. Try to make a quick knockdown. That was our mission at the time, and also conduct a quick search.
Okay. You were going to conduct a search even though you were told everyone was out.
Yeah, and the reasoning a lot of that was, okay, where are they at? He told me he had 3 waitresses, which they had gone across the street from the building, but we didn't see them. So were we 100% sure everybody was out? No.
Okay, all right, that's fair. I just want to understand, because you had said earlier that you were told everyone was out, and now you're inside with the mission of doing a primary search. So you got the engine officer and firefighter with a 2-inch line, and you and another firefighter. They've got the irons. You all have a thermal imager with you?
Yes.
Okay. Is it on and functioning?
Yes.
Okay. What are you seeing?
Well, that's the problem. The smoke was so thick, all I could see was a glow on the screen.
Couldn't even see the screen?
No.
So you're talking some really heavy-duty, thick...
Really thick smoke, yes.
Smoke. Okay, so you're inside, conditions down to the floor, heavy, thick, black, smoke, so thick you can't see the thermal imager. Now what?
My firefighter grabs me on the left shoulder, and he tells me he sees the fire. So I'm 6'3", so I drop down a little lower in the building, trying to get a better view from underneath. And as I do, I can see a glow. And it was when we went in, there were bars on the left, there were bars on the right. We were kind of tripping over bar stools and stuff. And there was like a handrail. I remember maybe a handrail coming off the bar. And there were some steps. There was 3 small steps that went up, and we turned up those steps. And as we turned up the steps, the firefighter struck, the kitchen doors that rotate, they flop back and forth. He struck that door, and when he did, the door swung open, and I saw the fire, and I said, pull that door back shut. So he pulled the door back shut. At that time, we had 2 guys off the rescue came up behind us. And I said, okay, we need to get the hose line. So where did the hose line go? We couldn't see each other. We could hear each other, but we couldn't see each other. So I'm trying to locate the guys on the hose line.
You got separated?
Yes, we had gotten separated. So I told my firefighter, I said, you stay right here with the rescue. I've got the hose line right here. I'm gonna get these guys, because I knew they couldn't have gone far. So I get on the hose line, and I scurry down the hose line, and I find the captain and the firefighter. It's maybe 10 or 15 feet deeper than what we had gone. And I said, hey guys, we got the fire right here. Let's come back and hit this. Well, they turned around, they went back. And as I was working down the wall, I kept thinking, okay, this is a kitchen, this is a restaurant. There's always 2 doors. You have one the waitresses go out, you have one they go in. So they're not knocking trays out of each other's hands and stuff. So as I'm coming down that wall, I'm looking for that second door. And I get back to where I'm at, and where the fire's at, and everybody's there. I remember hearing the captain say, hey, we need to get, we're disoriented. We need to figure out where we're at.
Was the captain of what?
That was the engine captain on engine 13.
On the hose line.
Well, he was with the firefighter on the hose line.
Okay.
So they're together.
Okay.
And I could hear, at that point, I heard engine 1 coming in with another hose line. So I heard them coming in, but the direction they came in, I'm not sure, because that's when things started turning around on me. And okay, I'm on this wall. I'm trying to find. I get back to the steps, or what I thought were the steps where it went up, and I could hear the guys hitting the fire. I can hear them talking about trying to get the ceiling open. So I grabbed my hook and I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna help. Well, that tin ceiling was no fun at all. We're trying to pull that ceiling, and command kept calling. I remember hearing command calling, wanting to know what conditions were. Mm-hmm. They wanted an update on conditions. So I stepped back away from the hose line, and I contacted command. I gave them an update on conditions, what was going on. I put the mic back down, and then I got in my mind again, okay, we got a second line, let's find that second door. And
okay, hold on a second. When you took your pole to hook the ceiling, were you doing that under the belief that the fire was above the ceiling?
At that point, I was pretty sure that the fire had probably gotten into that ceiling space, because that entire kitchen was floor to ceiling. It was fire.
Okay.
In that entire kitchen.
Okay.
So, okay, where was that? I had contacted command. Mm-hmm. Gave them an update on conditions. Mm-hmm. Put the radio mic down. I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna find this second door. We can get that second line over here. We can dump some water in this. And as I turn and I'm starting to locate that second door, I hear my vent group call command and tell them they have vertical ventilation established.
Okay.
Well, the very next thing that goes through my mind is, okay, they've got a hole in the roof of this building and we still have no visibility. But it was moderate heat. It wasn't high heat. It wasn't hot, but zero visibility. And anybody that's been in a structure, when that vent hole is cut, it's almost like the visibility improves immediately, almost. Mm-hmm. Well, it didn't improve at all. And that was my first clue while we were interior. Okay, we need to get out of this. And then I heard the guys on engine 1, I heard them, all right, we got to go. All right. And then they take off. And I'm like, where are they going? They're going the wrong way. And then I turned to where I remembered the engine 13 officer being, and they were gone. And then I realized, okay, these guys are leaving. But they're going the wrong way. I kept telling them they're going the wrong way.
Were they going without their hose line?
Well, they were leaving the structure. I think they were following the hose line. And matter of fact, if you go through the pictures, if you get a chance to take a look at the pictures, you can see at one point there's a couple of chiefs trying to drag the hose line out of the building. Mm-hmm. So they were following the hose. They abandoned the hose line, and that was the engine 1 hose. That was the hose line off of engine 1, which they did come in from. It was a little differently the way they came in, and that was one of the things that confused me a little bit, because the hose line off of 13, I couldn't find that hose line. It was gone. So I'm sure that when the 13 officer and the 13 firefighter left the structure, they pulled the hose line with them. Right. But like I said, I can hear them, and I'm thinking, all right, they're leaving the structure, and then I hear the air horns blasting, for everybody to evacuate. And then everything got quiet. And then I realized, okay, I'm in here by myself. There's nobody else here with me.
Oh my God.
And zero visibility.
Oh my God.
So, okay, Now I've got to find my way out. I couldn't find that hose line. I'm working down that wall, and then I run into a bar. And, I don't remember going around the bar. So I back up, and I kneel down to the floor. By this time, the heat's getting pretty high.
Hold on a second. Did you call a Mayday?
I'm going to get to that in just a second.
Okay. All right.
But yeah.
All right. I'm ahead of myself. Go ahead.
Did I call a Mayday? I attempted to call a Mayday.
Okay. Continue.
But when I kneeled down to the floor, I said, okay, I got to find something here. I've been up and down this wall. I'm not that far. I'm gonna figure this out, because I've been disoriented before. It just took a few seconds to grab something. Okay, I remember this. Let's go. But at this point, I don't remember anything. I keep bumping into stuff that I'm like, where did this come from? Before I knew it, I stood up and I said, okay, I'm pretty sure I came from this direction. I started walking, and when I started walking, I got closer to the fire. I had flames rolling overhead. The heat was getting pretty intense. So I turned around and I went right back to where that bar was, and I crouched down and got, shielded myself from the heat. And then I reached down and I grabbed my mic. And when I grabbed my mic, I'm going to call a Mayday. And I went to call a Mayday, and when I keyed the mic, it just gave a tone. It didn't, on our Motorola's, when you key it, it double beeps and then you transmit. Mm-hmm. When I key it, it tones.
What's called the bonk.
Yep, it was the bonk. Yeah. And I held it, and I said, okay.
For those who don't have 800 megahertz trunked radio systems, that means that radio with him on the interior is not reaching the repeater. Therefore, nothing that he says is going to transmit.
Yeah. So I grab it again, I key it again, it does the same thing. And I'm like, okay, I can't get out. Well, we have an EIB, Emergency Incident Broadcast button, on the radios. At this point, my mind is not on anything, but I've got to get myself oriented and get out of here. I didn't even think about pushing that orange button. And I mean, it would have been as simple as pushing that orange button, and it would have taken me over to that emergency broadcast channel. Headquarters would have known it, command would have known it, everybody, but I never even thought about it.
Now, let me ask you something about that. Is that something that you had trained on before, or it's just in a policy that you know of, or a procedure that you know about? But have you ever actually been in a training scenario, in a burn building training scenario, where you've actually activated that button in training?
Yes.
You have?
Yes, many times.
And never thought of it.
It never crossed my mind. I spent 2 years training new recruits.
How long have you had that radio system that has that button feature?
At this point, I think we're probably going on 10 years.
So it's not new.
It's not new. No.
Okay.
And it's just, and like I said, we had trained on it multiple times. I spent the time that I spent with recruits, we drilled in their head Mayday training, self-survival. We drilled it in their head. And I taught the classes. And it never crossed my mind to push that orange button.
Does that amaze you now, looking back?
Yes, it does. I mean, I was like, what were you thinking? But I can tell you what I was thinking. The second that I realized I'm lost and disoriented, I can see my yellow light flashing on my heads-up display that my air's running out.
Oh, jeez.
The next thing that went through my mind was, who's going to take care of my family?
Oh,
So, that's going through my head, and I had never been in a position like that.
Could you imagine? Imagine yourself just for a moment in the position that he's in and what's going through his mind. I had a hard time holding my composure together at that point in the interview. I'm going to pause for a moment from the interview. I want to thank those who've recently hosted some SA Matters tour stops and announce a few of the tour stops on the horizon. Stick with me for a moment. We'll get back to the interview. I'd like to thank those who've committed and supported us in hosting programs recently. Arvada Fire Department, Castle Rock Fire Department, Maple Grove Fire Department, Firehouse World Conference, and of course the Wisconsin Indian Head Technical College where I am now. If you're interested in joining me for an upcoming event, consider, if you're in the areas, to on February 22nd, I'll be at Gallatin County Emergency Management Agency in Montana, a one-day leadership development program. February 27th, I'll be in Midland, Michigan for the Michigan Fire Chiefs Association doing a Situational Awareness Matters tour stop. February 28th to March 1 in Terre Haute, Indiana for Company Officer Development Institute Part 1. March 2 to 6, the Indianapolis Airport Fire Department for Company Officer Development Institute, a week-long program there. And then March 7th and 8th back in Terre Haute for Part 2 of the Company Officer Development Institute. If you're going to come to Terre Haute, that's 2 parts. It covers 2 weekends. March 10th, I'll be keynoting for the Idaho Department of Lands in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, a situational awareness program for wildland fire managers. March 12th, the Wisconsin Emergency Services Conference in Rice Lake, a Situational Awareness Matters tour stop there. March 14-15, the program sponsored by Midwest Fire for the Loveland Fire Rescue Authority in Colorado. Saturday will be a Situational Awareness Matters tour stop. Sunday, 2 programs, How Fast Firefighters Can Die, where we're going to review a line-of-duty death incident, and a special topics session for command officers on situational awareness. March 20, the Center for Public Safety Excellence Conference in Orlando, Florida. I'll be doing a program on understanding motivation. March 21 and 22 will be in Chester County, Pennsylvania, a 2-part situational awareness and joint Art of Reading Smoke program. I'll be Saturday. Dave Dotson will be on Sunday. March 24 in Hershey, Pennsylvania for the Hershey Fire Department, a Situational Awareness Matters tour stop there. March 25 for the Maryland Fire Rescue Institute National Staff and Command Course in Towson, Maryland. This is my 15th year presenting for MIFRE, so thank you for that opportunity. That'll be situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. Wow, as you can see, the popularity of the SA Matters message and mission is growing, and for that I am extremely grateful. There are few things as humbling in life to me as standing before a room of a couple hundred first responders and knowing that they've been inspired to hear my message because they want some tangible, immediately usable situational awareness best practices to improve their safety. Thank you for that. The full schedule for the SA Matters tour stops are on the website. Just click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Upcoming Events Schedule. I'm working hard to recruit some new members for the SA Matters community of learners. If you've not a member already, you can join for free. There are over 5,000 who have. When you sign up, you'll receive a special report that I've created for the new members called 25 Best Practices for Improving First Responder Safety. It's a short and sweet list of 25 lessons for improving firefighter and EMS and police officer safety. If you're not a member, head over to SA Matters website, click on the red box on the right side of the homepage that says free membership and to get your special practices report. That's what it says on the red button there. I want to remind you that every episode of the radio show has a corresponding show notes page on the SA Matters website. To access the show notes, go to samatters.com/ and then enter the episode number, which I always mention at the start of the show. So, for example, this is episode 42. So if you open your browser, go to samatters.com/42. It'll take you to a page that contains the links to this episode. And you can also play it right on your desktop or device. And there's some show notes that contain the list of takeaways from the episode and information about our sponsor and contact information for our guest if you want to follow up with our guest. You can also leave your feedback on that episode right on that page as well. If you want to get connected with me on social media, you can follow at Rich Gasaway or at SA Matters on Twitter. For those feeds, I share out messages related to safety and occasionally some interesting tidbits about my travel and my personal life and my family. With my Twitter account, you're getting genuinely 100% me, only me. No one tweets on my behalf. I have no one that manages the back room for me. It's pretty much me, warts and all. It is what it is. Sometimes I say things that are maybe I wish that I wouldn't. Sometimes in the heat of passion, I'll read something and it inspires me to send out a message. But it's me. The tweets are always appropriate for all audiences. If anyone posts anything on my feed that is offensive or vulgar, I will remove that from my feed and I will block them from my account. There are plenty of places you can go to post garbage or read garbage if you want to, but not on my feed. So thanks to the more than 13,000 who are connected with me on Twitter. You can also get connected with me on Facebook by liking the SA Matters page and get connected with me on LinkedIn. And thanks to the more than 8,000 who have connected with me on Facebook and LinkedIn, and thanks to the more than 4,000 endorsements and recommendations that I've received on LinkedIn as well. I'm truly humbled and sincerely appreciate your faith in my mission and my message. Okay, back to the interview with then Captain, now Battalion Chief Stephen Page from the Raleigh Fire Department, trapped inside of a restaurant with appearing to have no way out, alone, trying to figure out who's going to take care of his family.
The next thing that went through my mind was, who's going to take care of my family?
Oh,
So, that's going through my head, and I had never been in a position like that. It really grabbed me and just held me. I'm like, whew, okay, I got to get out of here. I'm not going to die in this pub today. So, so I gathered, got myself together, and I said, okay, where did you come in? And I turned and I went again, and I ran back into some fire, and I went back to where I was coming from. I said, nothing was adding up. So I turned and I just went in a different direction. And as I was going, I tripped over another bar stool. And when I did, I hit on my side on the floor. And when that happened, going into the front door, there was a transition. We had they had like a tile floor at the front door for about 10 or 15 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then it transitioned to like I can't remember, I won't say it was a wooden floor or something, but maybe concrete. I don't remember that much, but I do remember that tile floor at the front door. And when I fell over and I hit, I could see just a small little bit of light underneath the smoke, and I caught that tile on the floor, and I think that's when my the light on my helmet hit, and I mean my face is right there at the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized when I saw that, I said, I'm close to the front door, so I can get out of this.
Let me pause for a second.
And
is there any radio traffic that you're hearing?
And took about 6 more steps, and then I could see the glass doors. And I reached over and I grabbed that glass door and I opened it up. And as I step out, this was kind of funny. I could see the bat chief standing over there. He's got my firefighter by the collar. And he's shaking him, asking him, where is Captain Page?
Oh boy.
And I reached up and put my hand on his shoulder and I said, I'm right here. We're good. But as I walk out into the street, I walk out into the street and I turn back and I look at that building, and as I turn and look at it, it lights off completely. Front to back, side to side, it was nothing but fire, just lit off. And I was like, okay, that was just a little too close. But then, I was relieved, but at the same time, I was still, you know, it's just an overwhelming emotion that I can't describe, because, it won't just 30, 45 seconds ago, I was thinking, okay, I'm getting ready to die. And now I'm back out in the street. I can feel the rain running down, and I can see the building burning, and I've got fresh air, and I'm good, and okay, I'm good.
How long were you in there alone?
It's sitting on my mind, and it caused me to realize, okay, I said before I walked in this building, this is the type of building that kills firefighters, but I put myself in that situation. Why did I do that? And it wasn't about me anymore, because I've got twins at home that were, at the time, they were 13 years old. And then I have a younger one. She was probably 8, and my wife. And I'm sitting there thinking, I could have just left this world right then and just left them with all types of things that have to take care of. Why did I put myself in that situation? And you talk about situational awareness. All the warning signs were there before we made entry into the building. And then I still ask myself, why did we make entry on this? Yes, the cook told us that everybody was out, but we didn't see everybody. I grew up in the fire service that you go in, you make your search, you never know. Well, you're right, you never know, but then you look at those conditions inside that building. If there was somebody in there, would they have survived? And I don't want to write anybody off. No firefighter wants to write anybody off, but you still have to think about your family. Who's going to take care of your family when you get yourself killed? When you see the warning signs and they tell you this is a bad situation. You've got heavy black smoke to the floor, pressurized smoke. You've got turbulent fire. Why are you going to make entry into something like this before you get the conditions to where they need to be to make entry? Venting out the structure, when they had made that vertical ventilation, I talked to them later, and they said they had smoke, they had fire coming out of the vent hole, but it just wasn't the amount that you would expect it to be. Did the cold rain have an effect on that? And I'm sure it did in some way. But also the makeup of the building itself with the tin roof. You had heavy fire in the cock loft. It wasn't long after the fire ignited throughout the building that the ceiling actually came down. They have rebuilt the building. They had insurance. Why are we risking our lives for something that can be repaired? So, all these questions run through your mind. And even today, in my position now as a battalion chief, I'm looking at the building, I'm paying attention to the smoke, what's going on, and the first question I ask myself, do my guys need to be in there? Is everybody accounted for? If they are, the buildings can be rebuilt. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Okay.
I lost my ability to talk to you there for just a couple of moments.
Okay.
What would you say you learned from this?
Step back and take a minute to think. What is this fire doing? We knew there was a fire burning in the building. We knew that it was a it was a growing fire. It was turbulent. With the amount of black smoke that was coming out of the back alley, the amount of smoke that was inside the structure, we need to step back and think, what are we putting ourselves into? Because we had pre-planned the building. We had pre-planned the structure. We knew it was cut up. And when you go into bars like that, there are bars, there are bar stools, there's all kinds of things in the way. So it's not hard, even though, what seemed to be forever for me, it was actually maybe 2 to 3 minutes at the most. If even that long. But it seemed like, to me, it seemed like eternity trying to find my way out of that building.
Did you find out later that were they trying to contact you on the radio?
Yes, they had called me on the radio several times, and I'll tell you what happened with the radio. There are several dummy buttons. Each button, Motorola designs those radios, and each button, each function has its own. You can program it to do whatever you want it to do. Well, we had one button on the side that was not programmed, but if you pushed and held that button, it put the radio into what was called an ID mode. And somehow or another, during that going in and making an attack on that fire, the Mayday, it just didn't broadcast. So, and plus I had taken the radio out. I had the radio in my radio pocket, and I pulled it out and stuck it to my mask to try to see what channel I'm on, what's going on the radio. And the smoke was so thick, I could just see the glow off the radio. I couldn't read the screen at all. And that was with it stuck to the face piece, getting it as close to the face piece as I could without taking the face piece off. But it had gone into that ID mode. So when I tried to call the Mayday, it did not communicate, and I was not receiving any communications from anybody else on the fireground. Mm-hmm. Since that time, we have fixed that. We've also gone to a newer model radio, so to try to avoid those types of problems. Mm-hmm. But it's like I said, I spent the time that I did in the training division, training new recruits coming in. We emphasized self-rescue. We emphasized Mayday. If you get yourself in trouble, work your way out. We always emphasize maintaining your orientation when you go in. Remember the things you pass, how many doorways, how many turns did you make, stuff like that. And this, as many times as I've taught that class, some of those things I think you just get to a comfort level when you're doing that job, mm-hmm. to where some things you don't do as much as you should. Mm-hmm.
Now, your firefighter, they said, let's get out. He turned, he got out. I mean, at what point did he realize you're not with him?
Well, it was immediately, it's like I said, when we were inside, we couldn't see each other. We can just hear each other. And I had told him to stay with the rescue group until we got that hose line back. Well, we got that hose line back, and we did pass each other a couple of times here and there. But when they called the evacuation, he went with everybody that was there, because he was still in that crowd. I was kind of on the outside of the crowd. I could hear him. I could hear him talking. I could hear him, let's get this over here. Let's, get the line in this position. And I could hear him moving stuff around, but I couldn't see him. So when everybody started out, he was like, okay, we're all together. We're all coming out. Well, as soon as he got out, he turned to see me, and he realized I wasn't there, and he immediately grabbed the chief and said, hey, I can't find Captain Page. He's nowhere around. I can't find him. So they had called me on the radio, but I couldn't hear it. So it's that little dummy button on the side kind of messed us up. But like I said, we fixed that since then. Mm-hmm. And hopefully hopefully we don't put anybody in that position anymore. But it takes training and it takes running calls and getting that experience to see what those conditions are, to really know, all right, this is we're not building that recognition prime decision making. They're not really building on that because you just don't see that many fires like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Since my promotion to battalion chief, I've been to one fire where it was a fast-moving, large fire to where I said, okay, everybody back out of this. We've already completed our searches. Let's everybody back out. Let's go defensive. Let's get it under control. Then let's put the fire out. So, even at my level, in the time that I've had in the fire service, there's still other things that I can still build on to improve my decision making.
Mm-hmm. When your shift was done after this event, you had to go home.
Uh-huh.
Did you tell the family what happened?
Not for a long time, I didn't.
Long time. 2 days? 2 weeks?
I think I told my wife it was maybe it may have been a month, maybe 2.
Mm-hmm. What'd that conversation sound like?
It's kind of funny in a way, and it's not. And the way it came up was, hey, I'm going to take the chief's test. And she looks at me, she says, well, I didn't think you wanted to take the chief's test. And I said, well, I've changed my mind. And I told her why. I mean, I was in the tiller when it overturned on South Street in 2009. I got lost in this fire, and I said, okay, that's twice now that I'm lucky to still be here. I'm not going to put myself in that situation anymore. So, yeah, I told her the story afterwards. My kids will never know it.
How old are your kids?
Right now, I have the twins are 15, and she's 10. They're getting ready to. The twins are actually driving. They haven't gotten their driving on permit, learner's permit.
Mm-hmm.
But it changes your perspective about things. I want to be here to see them grow up.
Mm-hmm.
I still want. I want to spend many more happy days with my wife and my family. So,
it's amazing how many firefighters, when they're getting ready to make the entry into the environment that you went into, aren't thinking about that part of life.
Yeah.
So focused on the job to be done, so focused on the task that they are not thinking, who's going to take care of my family?
Yeah.
And find themselves having a close call like you, and then all of a sudden now, there you are inside the pub, and that's the most important thing on your mind at that moment.
Yeah. It's the moment I realized that I might not come out of this is when I thought, okay, who's gonna take care of my family because I'm not coming out of this.
Mm-hmm. Were you mad at yourself for finding yourself in there alone? What were you thinking? What were you feeling when all of a sudden it got really quiet and you realized I'm in here alone? Other than, oh crap! I mean, were you thinking like, how did this happen? Or
there was the big oh crap moment when I realized, okay, I'm lost. I can't find my way out. And then there was okay, I'm not coming out of this. But then there was almost, it's kind of weird. It's almost like it was almost peaceful for a minute there. It was like, okay, I've accepted I've accepted that I'm getting ready to go, and it's almost like it was a moment of, it's hard to describe. It was like, I'm good with this right now. But then I was like, heck no. I got to get out of here.
Stephen,
this is not the way I want to go.
You may not know this, but you've just exactly described the very feelings that some of the other close call interviewees have described. That sense of calm, that sense of, okay, it's my time, and then they snap and they say no, that's not going to happen. I'm not dying here, and they get that like second wind, that second energy, just like you described.
It's weird. I mean, like I said, I've been disoriented before, but it never took me long to figure out, okay, this is where I came from. This is how I got in here. But that day, I had no clue where I was at, where I was going. Like I said, when I heard the guys leaving, I kept thinking they're going the wrong way. Where are they going?
Mm-hmm.
And what I heard was when engine one had brought their hose line in, the direction that they came from, they actually climbed over all the bars to get to where we were at. So when they went out, everybody followed them over the bars. Well, I didn't cross the bar coming in. Plus, at the time, the fire gases and the heat had gotten to the point where if I did get up on a bar to crawl over it, I was putting myself in that environment, in that fire gas and that heat. So, I'm not crawling up on top of a bar at this point. I could see fire overhead. I'm not getting up there and getting into the fire. So, I stayed low on the floor as long as I could. And when I did make decisions to try to find a way out or go a different direction, I wasn't standing up straight. I was on my feet because I can move faster on my feet. But I was staying low to just try to stay under that heat. But like I said, I eventually, and I luckily tripped over a bar stool, which helped me to find my way out. And we'll still laugh about that every now and then. I can't walk and chew gum, I think is what I've been told before, but thank God for a bar stool, because if I hadn't tripped and fell over that bar stool, would I've turned right back around and went back to where I was at,
Mm-hmm. Now, when you'd said the one of the vent group did the vertical cut, why did you, were you able to go back and reconstruct why that didn't clear the environment?
It seems like they, and there were two vent groups up there by the time they got ready to come off. The other ladder had arrived, and they had laddered the delta side of the building, and they all got up on the roof, so they were working together to get the vertical established, on a commercial building. So, and they got a hole cut, but I want to say it was the way the building was constructed, which, I'm not sure if there was a rain roof involved. There's a real good possibility with all those older buildings in that section of the city, because I've had fires down there before where we cut through the roof and there's another roof.
Mm-hmm.
But it had burned to the point where there was just walls standing. So, I never really got to look at the roof real that well. Plus,
did the vent group, after the fact, I don't know if you got a chance to talk to them, but if you did they say when they made the hole that the hole was productive? In other words, smoke was venting out of the hole, or they just made the hole and then nothing was coming out?
They cut the hole and it was coming out, but it wasn't coming out in the volume that they expected.
Okay.
And then command had already called for evacuation, so they're getting off the roof. and everybody else was starting to come out of the building.
Okay. We're running short on time, so what I'm going to do is give you the chance to be a teacher and to tell the audience 3, and I mean if you end up with 4 or 5, I'm okay, but a handful of the most important lessons that you would want others to know as a result of you going to hell and back.
Okay. 3 or 4?
Yeah.
Okay. 1, pay attention to your gut instinct. When you have the feeling that there's something about this call that is going to get somebody hurt or somebody killed, don't let go of that. That gut feeling, I had that gut feeling when I got off of that truck, but I masked up and I made entry.
Now, when I was down in Raleigh and we did the class, did we? I don't remember exactly, but did we talk about that gut instinct?
Yes, and when you talked about that, I remember thinking that to myself. Man, that's exactly what I felt on December 26th of 2012. That's exactly what I felt.
And what I usually say, and again, because I don't remember exactly, what I say in each class, but what I usually say is you got to trust it.
Yeah, and you do, because I didn't trust it, and I ended up putting myself in a situation that I couldn't have come home from.
That's a powerful lesson.
And to this day, still, when I get that gut feeling, okay, I'm gonna step back and look what is going on. What am I missing? What do I need to do different? We teach and we teach and we teach fire behavior. If this is going on, change this tactic. If no improvement's seen here, change this tactic. Increase water. Big fire, big water, ventilation, but how often do we really sit back and take a look at it? Take a look at that big picture and look at what is going on. You see heavy black smoke coming out of a structure, but you're going into it at zero visibility. I mean, it was black smoke from the ceiling to the floor. No visibility whatsoever. Had I ever been in a situation like that before? Yes, but it was the same results. We were told to evacuate the structure. And I can recall that happening 3 times prior to this fire. So then you question yourself, and one of those was a warehouse fire. It was a carpet warehouse, so that's a heavy fire load. And we make entry on it, even after we've been told there's nobody in the building. And we get in.
Why do you think we do that?
It's I remember when I came into the fire service in the 80s. I remember, okay, this is what conditions are like when you go into a fire. We were taught these are what conditions are like. But when you think about it, the regular everyday residential fires that we're used to and we're really good at, most of them, when you go in, you don't have visibility like that. You don't have zero visibility. You've got some visibility. You've got some heat. It's really not that terrible most of the time. But when you go into a situation like this, you're like, okay, this is just a big commercial building. It's supposed to be like, no, it's not supposed to be like that. Why do we do it? I don't know. I really, it's hard to explain. Time and time again, you're fighting fire. You're going into these fires, and like I said, there's just a few times that I can remember where it was zero visibility. But every time that there was zero visibility, we were always pulled out of the structure. So what? Why did we go in to start with? Well, we don't want to be beaten. We've got that competitive edge, and that's something about the firefighters, fire service in general, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be, I guess, pride and proud that you can go in there and get a hold of it, but at the same time, you're putting you're putting your life in danger for a building that has insurance on it.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's going to rebuild, or they're going to make a parking lot out of it. One or the other.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going in to actually save a life, yeah, it's worth it to go in and try to save a life. But if there's nothing there to save, why are we doing that?
Well, I think even sometimes we're arriving on scenes where the conditions are so far along, there is no savable life.
Exactly.
And we're still going in on the premise of search and rescue because it's what we do. We're firefighters. That's our sworn duty, without looking at the conditions and saying, realistically, is there a savable life in that environment? And then the firefighters that go in thinking, well, there could be, they become the victims. They can't even be saved in that environment with turnout gear, SCBA, hose lines, imagers, and they become, they either bail quick or they become the victims themselves. All right, so let me summarize the lessons that I heard you say as you were talking. You said pay attention to your gut instinct. Big fire, big water. Keep your eye on the big picture. Assess whether it's worth making entry in zero visibility. The risk versus the reward, and mention the 3 times that you've made entry with zero viz and every time been forced out without accomplishing the mission of what you went in to do, correct? Yep. We make entry often, even after being told that there's no one inside. We still make that entry. And pride, competitiveness, don't want to lose, can drive us to an action that could have a consequence.
Exactly.
Stephen, those are some amazing lessons. All I can say is I'm glad you're here to share them, and I think the fire service is going to be smarter for those who listen to the show and say, that could have been me. And shame on those who'd say, well, I would never do that, or I would never, well, I didn't say shame on them. But I think there are a lot of people who will listen to a show like this and say, that would never happen to me. I'm smarter than that guy. Or I would never get separated from my crew, or I would have turned and got out with the crew. I would have never been the one stuck inside there alone. I think you'd say the same thing, right? If I asked you before that incident, do you think there'd be a fire, Stephen, where everybody'd leave and you'd be the only one left inside with crickets around you? You'd say that wouldn't happen, right?
I've said it before. I'm gonna stick with my crew. And like I said, we train. Me and my guys, I'd look at them and I'd put them up against anybody in the country. We go into a fire and we come out and turn around and look and say, another great job done, guys. Time and time again, we go in and grab it and get it done. But this one time, I'm sitting there in that building by myself, and like I said, it wasn't a very long time at all, but it felt like forever.
Mm-hmm.
And all these things are running through your head. You're trying to go back into those muscle memory, those habits you built of, self-rescue and stuff. And it's just, why put yourself in that situation? But still, you still need to train on it.
Mm-hmm.
But,
well, I can say that, having been to Raleigh and having conducted the training for the battalion chiefs and having observed the recruit training and having seen the training facility, you guys got it going on when it comes to having a focus on being well trained and having a safety orientation and having battalion chiefs with the right mindset, and still with all of that and good policies, and still with all of that, you almost died.
Yes. Luckily, past 10 years, with Chief McGrath there, he's he's put in place a lot of changes, and a lot of changes have not been taken well, and some have been, but at the same time, we're changing, and the fire service itself is changing, and I feel good that we're going in the right direction. We've worked hard to do the right thing for our people, and that's the one message that Chief McGrath tries to get out, is do the right thing for your people. Take care of your people.
I had a chance to sit down with the chief before I did the training, and he said one thing that is going to stick with me, and he says he tells his senior staff, everything we do should be for the benefit of the firefighter who's crawling down a dark hallway.
Sure does.
And I was impressed with that, and that speaks a lot for the mindset of take care of the firefighters. The firefighter will take care of the customer.
Oh yeah.
Well, Stephen, thank you for giving me the gift of your time today to sit down and talk about this incident. And I know there were some times where you were speaking of some things that were kind of hard to talk about, and I appreciate the fact that you bared your soul and you let the listeners benefit from knowing the impact that this had on you and how it has changed your perspective of how you do your job. And now in a battalion's position, it changes the perspective of how you're going to watch out for others. Thanks for being with me today.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's it. Episode 42 is complete. Thank you to Raleigh Fire Battalion Chief, then Captain Stephen Page, for sharing your amazing close call survival story with us. Your courage to share what happened will certainly help improve firefighter safety. Thank you to our sponsor, Midwest Fire, and thank you, our listeners, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I sincerely appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. If you've experienced or witnessed a near miss or a close call and would like to be interviewed on this show, visit the samatters.com website and click on the Contact Us link. And thank you in advance for sharing your lessons learned so that others may live. If you like the show, please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio and search for SA Matters Radio and subscribe to the podcast and leave your feedback. It's SA Matters Radio on iTunes and Stitcher. If you like the show, I really appreciate you giving it a 5-star review as well. Not only will that motivate me to work harder for you, but it'll also help others find the show. If you've been inspired and want to learn more about situational awareness, please consider becoming a member of the SA Matters community. It's free, and when you sign up, you get that special report that I talked about that I created for the new members, 25 best practices for improving first responder safety. So claim your free gift, head over to samatters.com, click on the red box on the right side of the home page. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.